The WNBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bird Dogs Shorts. Dominate your summer with an amazing pair of shorts and a free Yeti style tumbler over at birddogs.com/pool. That is birddogs.com/pool. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Whoa, WNBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Know me, know the voice, know the guy. It's me, really real, villain real, Terrell from Virginia here at your service. And when I'm not messing up the intro, I'm here giving out stone cold locks on the WNBA Gambling Podcast. Shout out to I didn't sweep because we didn't get the Seattle Storm money line. However, Seattle Storm, and just let it keep going. Just let it keep going on a loop here because now we're looking at 7-4 against the spread. 7-4. I don't care if they're not winning games. I don't care because we keep getting them. Let the Storm music hit one more time. Very much so. Whew, man, shout out to the Seattle Storm. Just finding ways to constantly get it done for me against the spread. Got my guy here with me, Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on?
Nothing much. Looking forward to going through the WNBA card. I know the last time I was on the show, I actually swept. That was a couple days ago, but still. So left the show on a high note. Now hopefully trying to run it back. But overall, it should be a pretty fun card. 3 games to talk about. 3 games that potentially could go either way because we do have relatively short spreads. No 19-point spreads for road teams on today's card. So
and they still covered. They still covered.
They're still covered. Yeah,
they're still covered.
Yeah. They're favored by 19 on the road, and the Aces still won by 20 against the Mercury. But still, looking forward to today's card. Should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to recap what I had last episode, my dog was Seattle. So I didn't get Seattle outright. I did get Seattle on the money, on the spread, like I alluded to earlier. And I really just wanted to mention that to play the drop one more time. I really love this drop. This is great. This is gonna make it all season. So we got the spread there. Didn't get the money line, so I missed my dog. However, I did cash my lock. Dallas Wings first half -1.5. That was never in doubt. They bounced back in a big way against the Atlanta Dream at home. And I wouldn't say it was a must-win spot, but they had lost 3 in a row, and you're at home playing the Atlanta Dream. So you really, really want to come through and put a good showing at home. We got Wings first half -1.5. And the picks, I mean, everybody knows you go on Tally site. Well, you should go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/ WNBA-picks, and that will take you to our picks page where you can see that I am 60% against the spread in the WNBA overall this season. But what I wanted to say was that Seattle was the reason for that. Shout out to the Seattle Storm one more time. Okay, all right, I'm done with Seattle until we end up talking about them later on in the slate. Scott, before we get to the actual breakdown in the slate, gotta talk to you about Bird Dog shorts because, man, I'm trying to tell you right now, if you guys want to go back and go see me talk about the NBA draft, which is tonight. So if you haven't watched it already, go back and watch the episode again and watch me get Sean to model those shorts. What are those shorts not that you would not want to buy, that you would not want form fitting on you? If they can make Sean stacking the money green look good in shorts, they can make anybody look good in shorts, anybody at all. So you should go tap into your Bird Dog shorts, get into your dad mode with the stretch khaki shorts. They got the swim trunks, they got everything you need, and you can buy it for the kids too. You can go buy it for the kids, and they can have Bird Dogs. You can be a family full of Bird Dog shirts. So go do that. use it in some type of athletic way, go hiking, just go to the soccer game and go to your soccer game, your kid's soccer game in the bird dog shorts. I'm telling you, everybody is going to catch on. Go to birddogs.com/pool where you can enter the promo code pool, POOL, and get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti style tumbler. I promise you, you won't want to take your bird dogs off. All right, let's talk about the three games that are actually being played today. We have the Connecticut Sun on the road going to play the Minnesota Lynx. Opened up at 5. It is now sitting at -4.5. 158.5 is the total injury report here. Let's start with the Lynx. We look here and we see Aerial Powers is questionable with an ankle injury. We have Dorka is where she questionable with the nose injury. Jessica Shepard's questionable with an illness. We know Diamond Miller is going to be out for a while with her ankle sprain, but
I see
going
Powers is still out.
is Power still officially out? Okay.
Yeah, I see her being officially out.
Okay, so no Powers today. But for the Connecticut Sun, here is the thing that everybody wants to know. Brianna Jones is out, and we can expect to see her out for the foreseeable future. I don't think we have a diagnosis on what happened to her, but she did get help to the locker room in that last game. That is a huge loss for this Connecticut Sun team. So, Scott, with that being known that you probably are not going to see Brianna Jones for the foreseeable future, how are you handicapping the Connecticut Sun laying 4.5 on the road?
I do think I am going to be taking the Sun anyway, because I still don't exactly like the Lynx as a team. They've played a little bit better lately, but I do think once again Connecticut is still the more talented roster by a decent margin. And maybe you might see AT get another triple double. We'll see what happens. I like her rebound props moving forward, or I
Uh-huh.
do think that you can look at maybe Bonner having some massive stat lines moving forward on the boards because of Brianna Jones being out. So, for a player prop perspective, I would pivot to the other superstars or stars on Connecticut to step up in her absence. But I do think when you're looking at the overall roster, Connecticut is still one of the most talented teams in the league. And I do think that the spread feels a little bit short since the Lynx are still 4-8. It's not like they're a good team by any means. First game of the season or meeting was pretty close. Sun did win by 5 on the road. The Lynx have won 3 of 4. Having said that, all 3 wins were against the Sparks, which is kind of weird. And the one loss was against the Aces, where they lost by 31. But I think I'm going to go with the Sun here. They've still been playing some good basketball. They won their last game against Seattle on the road by 6. They also beat the Sparks. They beat the Dream on the road. They've been pretty good on the road, 6-1 straight up on the highway, while the Lynx are 1-4 straight up at home. I'm going to go with Connecticut here. This line just feels a bit short.
Yeah, mm, I think I'm going the other side. I think I'm going Minnesota. It does feel short, but when you think about it, we talk about these two teams played this exact same situation on a Thursday earlier in the month, with Minnesota being at home and Connecticut only got out of there with the 5-point win. Minnesota ended up covering that 6.5-point spread there. And now you don't have Brianna Jones, who every game this season that she's played in, she's given you at least 12 points. Like, that's a really, really solid contribution offensively. And it could be a little bit of fool's gold because 3 of their last 4 games have been against the Sparks, and they won all 3 of those games. And then the one game that wasn't against the Sparks was against the Aces, and they completely got ran out of the building. But the Minnesota Lynx have looked better. Like, they have looked better. Could that just be they have the Sparks number? Possibly. And this would really be a good testing point, especially with no Brianna Jones, if they're able to go in here and get this game done. And so I think Brianna Jones is going to impact is going to be felt on both sides of the court. Like, she takes out some rim protection for you. Now you're risking putting Alyssa Thomas down there, putting DeWanna Bonner down there. What if they get into foul trouble? Like, how much is that going to affect, defensive strategies and stuff like that? So I think that I less want to back Connecticut and more back Minnesota in this one. If I got to play against the spread, I'm taking the +4.5. But I think my favorite one here is a play on the total. Full game total is at 158.5. And I had a little nugget here. Where did it go? I had a little nugget here about the yeah, so the Sun are actually 5-0 to the over versus teams under 500 this season. They average about 86.4 points per game in those games. So uh I like the over here in this one. I do, even with no Brianna Jones, but I do want to take the Sun equation out of it because again, she adds about 12 points on that number. So give me Minnesota Lynx team total over. I think that's one of my favorite plays in this game, and probably the play that I'm going to have some action on in this one is I think the Minnesota Lynx are playing slightly better. I think that there's already been an issue with teams scoring against the paint in the paint. I'm sorry, scoring in the paint against Connecticut this season, but now you take out your best rim protector and a big body down there in Brianna Jones, and that problem can only get worse with Nafisa Collier coming into town and what she's able to do scoring the basketball. So, yeah, I like the team total for the Minnesota Lynx. I see it at 77.5 minus 104. I like them to go over that today.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. I do think once again my favorite play in this game is going to be player props for Connecticut. I see Alyssa Thomas for rebounds is 10.5. I'd lean to the over. I was kind of hoping it'd be around 8.5 or 9.5, but her assists are only at 8.5 at minus 140, and I don't really know why it's only at 8.5. She had 12 in each of the last two games. First meeting against Minnesota this season, she had 16 assists.
Hmm.
I don't know why this is at 8.5. I'm going to take the over. I really do think she's in line for another triple double, or at least should be under triple double watch. But 8.5 assists for a player who's been that good at facilitating all year long, I think is way too low of a number. I got to take the over on that.
I mean, they're starting to push the number up. We started the season at 5.5. Then they quickly realized that was a terrible number, and it went to 6.5. And it bounced back from 6.5 and 7.5 multiple times. And this last game was the first time I saw it at 8.5 for plus money, and I didn't hesitate at all. And she went out there and had an amazing day. And if she can only still do that again. Only issue that could potentially be something to worry about is if they attack her inside the paint and she does pick up fouls. But I mean, Alyssa Thomas is the ball handler for this team. She's the point forward. She's the person that's getting the offense going, setting everybody up. So I'm always, this is an auto bet on my part.
Yeah.
All right. Any other props or anything you like in this one?
I don't really have much else. I do want to point out that Brianna Jones was not particularly good in the first meeting against Minnesota. So the other players had to step up anyway, with Jones being healthy for the first meeting. Bonner was a bit quiet, had 13 points, however, did go 5 of 16 from the floor. So
Hmm.
if you're expecting her to improve her shooting, then Bonner could be in line for another 20-point game. We know what she's capable of. She had 40 earlier this year. So I do think that she's probably worth a look for points. Besides that, I know Heidemann was very good in points in the first meeting, had 19, but I'm not sure if you're going to find a prop on her. But I do think I'm going to pivot mostly to Alyssa Thomas and to Bonner. Thomas is going to just be a volume play because she's going to play 40 plus minutes if this
Hmm.
game is close because she kind of needs to. So I'm on overs for Thomas. I think Bonner's in line for a good game too, though, because once again, she went 5 for 16 in the first meeting and had 13 points. She goes 8 for 16, and suddenly she basically is hovering around 20. I'd look for Bonner over, but I do think my favorite plays are going to be with Thomas.
I see Alyssa Thomas 9.5 assists. Like, man, they are really, really
Yeah.
juicing her
I
up.
found juiced 8.5, so I'll take that instead.
The Alyssa Thomas, well, I've been throwing out these 20 point, whatever plus money point props I can get, and I've been throwing them out recently. And we've been doing okay. Alyssa Thomas, 20 plus points is plus 240. It just feels like that's mispriced. And I understand that, she can be kind of up and down in scoring. She's going to get the double digits, but is she going to dominate scoring all the time? Not necessarily. I don't really see the value in pushing Dewana Bonner up to 25 to get some plus 250 on her. Like 20 is already a lot. But Alyssa Thomas to also have that contribution down low, absolutely. I'll take her for 20 plus 240. I like that play.
Do you have any thoughts on Collier, who was at roughly 21.5? She had 30 in the first meeting.
Yeah, no, I think she gets over her points prop again. I don't see the value in. I mean, I don't want to just go ahead and say she has 30 again, but that's plus 570 if you want to sprinkle on there. But I think that there's definitely value on just taking her over the points prop. She should get into her 20 to 25 range, and you should feel comfortable about that, especially with no Brianna Jones in the lineup. And at some point, she's probably going to be testing the bigs of Connecticut to see, hey, are you willing to pick up those fouls to kind of try to slow me down?
Yeah.
And if they don't, she's going to get to the rim and be very efficient. So I like Nafisa Collier as well. All right. Let's move on to the no. Before we move on to the other two games that are being played tonight, got to talk to you about underdog fantasy because you could throw Nafisa Collier over on points, higher on points. You can throw in Alyssa Thomas higher on assists, even throw in Alyssa Thomas higher on points as well because I think she's going to have a big points day. And you can go and put that into the pick'em contest for WNBA on Underdog, and you can get yourself a nice little payout. So go hang out, bet on some cool player props in WNBA, but also college baseball, MLB, all of that stuff is available as well. And for my NFL people, Best Ball Mania 4 is available, and they're giving away $15 million. Make sure you start drafting those best ball leagues. Head over to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right. Next game on the slate. We have the Washington Mystics traveling to Chicago to play Chicago Sky. This is a rematch of a game they just had over the course of the weekend. I was at that game. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Line opened up at -4.5. I saw some -5s out there when it opened in Vegas, but it is now down to -2.5. 155 is the total here. Injury report we have for the Chicago Sky looks like clean from what we know. All the same people that are out. Rebecca Gardner still out. They are still out. And for the Washington Mystics, Natasha Cloud is questionable with an illness on this Thursday. You know, you're not going to see Christy Tolliver for a while. And then uh Lee Mang is actually back with their national team. So she is going to be out for personal reasons until about mid-July as well. So, Scott, I'll kick things off and just ramble off what I saw in DC when I saw the game this weekend. And it was a lot of really bad calls that just early on went against the Chicago Sky. And at one point, James Wade was so frustrated with his starting unit that he pulled Alana Smith, who I think had 2 fouls at that time anyway, and Courtney Williams and Kalia Copper, pulled them 2 minutes into the game, and they didn't see the court until the second quarter. He went with that second unit. The second unit started giving him life, and he went with the second unit the entire rest of the first quarter and pulled those 3 out, and they didn't end up getting back in until that second quarter. Clea Copper never got going in that game. It was a lot of bad turnovers by the Chicago Sky, like frustrating turnovers where you're just kind of putting your hands on your head and like, what happened? Very, very frustrating turnovers that they had in that game, and yet they continued to go on runs. They just couldn't finish the runs, but they continued to go on runs and bring the game close. And then there go the Mystics, able to extend, and somehow find a way to win an ugly game. And that's kind of what it was, a very, very ugly game. So in this one, I think the calls go a little bit better in Chicago. I think that they feel a lot more comfortable at home. And those turnovers, those really, really bad turnovers that came out on the road, don't happen, and this team finds a way to win against a Mystics team that is still kind of figuring it out for the season, and the Chicago Sky team that's actually not bad. And they want to, continue to keep making a push early on in this season and carry that momentum throughout the season. So I'm going Chicago +2.5 here. I like them to get a win outright, actually, against the Mystics at home.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of torn on this one, but I'm going to lean to the Mystics here. Just looking at the last meeting, and even though you can talk about how some foul trouble is a concern, and you're looking at the Mystics attempting 12 more free throws in the game, they made 13 more free throws than the Sky in the game. But I want to at least point out some of these numbers because the Mystics won by 7, The Sky actually shot roughly 5% better from the floor, and they still lost the game comfortably despite out rebounding Washington by 15. They outshot them by 5% and had 15 more rebounds and still lost the game by 8 because they had 20 turnovers and the Mystics had
Mm-hmm.
5, which was really the story of the game, not to mention the free throws that I mentioned before. But the Sky were a team going into the year that I was low on, that we were low on. And after a pretty solid start, you saw the Sky start to fall back down to earth, and the Sky have really not played well for the last couple of weeks, as Chicago has lost each of the last 4 games by at least 2, 3 of the last 4 by at least 8. The point is they're not playing good basketball, and the Mystics, even though you expect them to maybe be a little bit better, we have seen them play pretty well lately, as they have won 4 of their last 5. I will admit that it was against the Storm twice, the Mercury, and the Sky. But the point is, I think I'm going to lean to Washington here. Just looking at the overall talent, I do think that Washington's better. I know Cloud's questionable. To be honest, she really didn't do anything in that Sky game anyway. She only scored 2 points and attempted 2 shots in the entire
Her
game.
impact was defensively. They felt
Defensively,
yeah,
yeah.
she was a havoc defensively, and she kind of forced a few of those turnovers. So if she is missed this game, is they're really going to feel it on defensive end.
Yeah, which was going to pivot maybe to taking Chicago team total over because once again they had 20 turnovers and Cloud was good defensively. Offensively, though, I'm not sure if Cloud's impact's going to be missed because she was clearly compromised last game. She had 2 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, but there's no way Natasha Cloud's only attempting 2 shots in an entire game in 32 minutes. So clearly she wasn't feeling right, and she kind of acknowledged it. But I do think when you're looking at the overall just way this game's going to play out, I think I am going to lean to the Mystics because I do think this team is just better. But I have to at least point out that the Mystics cannot get out rebounded by 15 again. If you want to take the Sky, I do think that it's worth looking at some rebound props because once again, I do think that Austin's a pretty good rebounder, but she was pretty much neutralized last game.
Mm-hmm.
And Deladon was okay on the board. She had 6 rebounds in 27 minutes. But Austin only having 4 is a bit concerning. And I do think if you're looking for a prop here, I don't mind Smith, who had 13 rebounds in 26 minutes for the Sky last game. I might just run it back with her. I just think that once again, for rebounds, you might be seeing Chicago do pretty well on the glass. Give me a player prop on the over for rebounds, on one of Chicago's players.
Yeah, I am. So I really like Chicago in this one. I just can't trust the Mystics. I don't think I can trust the Mystics on the road, honestly. And so if I'm not fading them or you don't want to fade the Mystics like that, then I say you fade them on the total. That total is 155. I'm looking at their team total sitting there at 78.5. And let me just read off, the games they played on the road. They scored 66 points against the Indiana Fever, 71 points against the Seattle Storm, 73 points against the Seattle Storm again. And then let's see here. You go and you see them 71 points against the Chicago Sky team in Chicago. They scored 74 points in Connecticut. Like, this team has never crossed this team total on the road yet. And they're winning games because their defense is so good. And if you can hold a team to 60 points and you can score 70, of course you're winning games. But at this point, they're just not good offensively on the road. And there's not even too many times at home that they're scoring a lot of points. They've been on over 80 twice this season. So I think, well, no, 3 times. 3 times this season. All right, there. 3 times this season, all of them at home. So I think that if I'm going to fade this team, the best way that I want to fade them is on the team total. Give me that team total under for the uh, Washington Mystics, under 78.5. That is minus 114. And yeah, the Chicago Sky's team is still pretty solid defensively.
Do you think Alana Smith's rebound numbers in this game are too low? Because I see it at 8.5, actually juiced to the under. So the over 8.5 rebounds is minus 106. She's had at least 9 rebounds in 3 of the last 4 games, had 13 rebounds in 26 minutes against the Mystics last time out. Do you
Mhm.
think 8.5 feels a bit short?
I I do, but I don't. So the issue there is that all of that is without Mo Birch being in the lineup, and now Mo Birch is coming off the bench potentially, or she could reclaim her starting role again and be back in that starting lineup, and Alana Smith be pushed back to the bench. So last game was very, very frustrating for her, and you could see it all over her face when she walked to the bench because the foul calls that she was getting on were a little egregious. Like it were little ticky tack fouls that she was picking up early, and she was in foul trouble that entire game. And so she never really got into full rhythm. And Mo Birch was able to come in and kind of steal minutes from her because they had that option for that. So I get why there's juice on the under. I think that it's too close for me to call where I'm going to want to bet Alana Smith rebounds today because of the Mo Birch factor, and she can steal into her minutes.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good talking point and something really good to consider because I know it's a lot of people there, and I wouldn't mad. I'm not mad if you go bet her because that is a low number, but it's just I'm concerned that there's other people to come in and help rebounding. Like they have a lot of bigs that they rotate pretty well in Chicago, and I don't want a situation where she just doesn't get the minutes today, and that's why we don't cash this. But I think Shakira Austin at plus 8.5 is rebounds is pretty good. Like you said that you got to make a rebounding adjustment. Who better to do that than your potential all-stars, potential most improved player of the year in Shakira Austin. I see plus money at plus 100, and she's going to have to really battle again with all the bigs that they have: Elizabeth Williams, Alana Smith, Mo Birch, Cone coming off the bench. Like they have a lot of bigs she's got to battle with, so she's going to need to be out there to rebound.
Do you have anything else you want to add for this game, or that's going to wrap it up?
Let's go to let's see here. Who's gonna have the big game? Marina Mabry or Kalia Copper?
Copper can't be that bad again, right?
Yeah, she really and she never really got a rhythm. Like I told you, he pulled her with 2 minutes to go in the first, and didn't see it again until the uh the second quarter, and she just never looked at rhythm until closer to the end of the game where she started to put a couple of buckets together. So Clea Copper, they really sucked the juice out of Marina Mabry, 20 plus points. That's plus 146. Why did we get that at plus 240 last time?
I think so. I mean, I still might be tempted by it because she's had at least 20 points in 3 of the last 5 games. She only went 5 for 13 against the Mystics, so I was expecting her
Uh-huh.
to shoot more in this game. But I do think Copper's in line for a good game too. I'd probably look for her over, just hoping that at least the volume would go up for Copper.
Uh-huh.
But I do think when you're looking at those two, Mabry's more likely to do it just based on the overall season numbers, but you're getting a better price on Copper to do it because of the fact that, once again, Mabry's done it more this season, but Copper's still a very solid player. She just had a bit of a slow start in terms of her efficiency. So we know what she's capable of. She just has to actually do it.
Yeah, and she can. Like I saw some good things towards the back end of that game from her. So, all right, let's take a stab. Clea Copper plus 186, 20 plus, even 25 doesn't even feel outside the range possibility. Plus 590. So, I'll back Clea Copper today. I saw some very good things. All right. Anything else for this one, Scott?
I don't see much else. I'm going to lean to the under, but I don't have much else to talk about for this
Oh
game.
well, I'm never taking it over
Yeah.
with the Mystics, but I just like that team total look a little bit better. But yes, 100% down on the under.
Mm.
Absolutely. All right, next game of the slate, we have the Indiana Fever traveling to Seattle. They opened up as a 1 point favorite. They are now up to minus 2.5. 164.5 is the total injury report here for these two teams. And we have nothing to report for the Seattle Storm. And for the Indiana Fever, we have Victoria Vivians, who is questionable with the concussion, actually. So we'll see if she goes in this one. That's going to be a depth piece missing for her, for the Fever, if she doesn't go. All right. I mean, are you doing it?
I'm not going to lay points with Indiana.
There's no way I'm fading our gals.
I don't
They
think
are.
Seattle's been that bad lately. You're looking at the recent
Well,
games they've
they
had.
against the spread, they've been really, really
Well, that's what I was
good.
gonna say. Yeah, outright they don't win many games, but they've actually split the last four, and the two losses were against the Sun, competitive game there, lost that one by 6, and they played the Aces, and the Aces are the Aces. So
Yeah.
overall, I haven't really been that discouraged by what Seattle's done. I mentioned earlier last week that Seattle had a really tough schedule, and it seemed like a lot of the teams they were playing were above 500. That really hasn't changed. The only exception was against the Mercury, who are 2-9, and they won that game on the road by 14. So the
Hmm.
one cupcake on the schedule so far in 11 games, they actually won that game comfortably. I think I'm going to go with Seattle money line here. I
Oh,
just
it's
think
so
that
easy.
I just think that Indiana shouldn't be laying 2. I like the over as my favorite play. I see a lot of points in this game. Defense to do anything. But I do think when you're looking at how this game's going to unfold, I can see a lot of points. Maybe Lloyd goes for 30 again. But I do think that Seattle at home, I know their record once again is not great at home, straight up, but they've also played a lot of really good teams. To go through the actual record and who they've played at home, they played the Aces, they played the Wings. The Wings aren't great, but they're still 6-6. Played the Liberty, played the Sparks. They won that game against the Sparks. Played the Mystics twice. Mystics, we know, are still a good team. Lost both. Played the Sun, lost by 6. So, once again, the only weak team, kinda, is the Sparks at home, and they won that game. So, give me the Storm here on the money line and give me the over.
Oh, you already know. You already know where I'm going. One more time. I'm all over Seattle in this spot, man. Especially now we're catching 2.5. Like this is exactly 100% what I was looking for and what I was waiting for. I was waiting to get more points. I was waiting to get a more juice on a money line and a really solid money line for the Seattle team. We're getting them as a home dog, where yes, they're good against the spread. 5-2 against the spread as a home dog. Now, Indiana, very, very good on the road, 5-1. However, most of those games are as a dog. They're 1-1 as a favorite against the spread this season. And so I'm just fading and bucking that again and just saying that I'm not laying points with Indiana. As much fun this Indiana team is, and as good as we look for taking the over on their win total before the season even started, they still aren't that good of a team. And it's fine. It's perfectly fine. This is a team that Seattle can beat. We talked about Seattle's played very, very good competition and kept games close. I think that they can do that here and win outright. I would actually, if you can find it in some type of adjusted line, I know they don't really have it for the W because, they don't ever want to give us anything nice, but I would 100% take an adjusted line with Seattle here. I think Seattle is completely live as an underdog. Give me Seattle plus 2.5. Seattle on the money line, and I love the over 164. Both of these two teams are abysmal in defense.
Yep.
And give me a Seattle team total. What's the team total over? I like their team. I just like everything Seattle Day.
Seattle's team total for the
A
game.
1.5. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Bit juiced. I see minus 125, but still.
Yeah, either that or the full game over. I think both of them can come in for us. Player props.
If I think Seattle's going to win, I got to look at Jewel Lloyd just because we know how good she's been this season. I see her for 30 plus points. It's at plus 320.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be tempted by that automatically because she did have 33 points last game against Connecticut, 39 points against Dallas. So she scored 30 plus points in each of the last 2 games. She's going to play a bunch of minutes. We know how talented she is. I do understand that 30 plus is difficult, but
Mm-hmm.
plus 320 when she's already done it in back-to-back games, I just really like that price.
Yeah, no, I'm never gonna, one of my favorite players there. I'm never gonna argue any type of Joel Lloyd points prop. Aaliyah Boston is interesting. Aaliyah Boston finds herself at 17.5 for the points prop today because she's been really, really good in the W, like very, very good at this point. And so, do we take the over on Aaliyah Boston or do we pivot? Because they do have a size advantage in terms of sheer numbers where we'll see what Mercedes Russell and Easy McBag are able to do defensively, but It's going to be a pretty good matchup between Aaliyah Boston and Lisa Smith and those two. Are you buying into either one of their points over 17 and a half and 14 and a half for Lisa Smith?
I am tempted by Boston. I know that she's technically on the injury report, but she's probable. So I'm not really worried about her potentially missing this game. It seems like Boston's going to play. But looking at her numbers over the last couple of games, she has been really, really good. I mean, she's had at least 19 points in each of the last three games, had at least 23 points in two of the last three games. And Seattle, I'm not sure can really stop her, to be honest. So
Uh-huh.
I am looking at Boston. I do think she's in line to potentially go for 20 in this game. She's gotten a consistent 31-minute workload, give or take, in the last couple games. So I do think that she'll be hovering around that minute total once again. But she's been really efficient. Now, the problem might be foul trouble because she fouled out last game against Atlanta, but the pace in that game was crazy too. I am going to lean to the over, though, with Boston. It's really
Uh-huh.
tough to take unders when she's been so efficient in the paint. And I think she's in line to have another good game.
Yeah, man. She's been really good. And this is brutal because she can easily get to 20. Like Nalisa
And she
is
gets to the
always
line a
good for
decent
20.
amount, underratedly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just like I think I like Aaliyah Boston over the 17 and a half, but I like Nalisa Smith 20 plus at plus 385. I still think that's a really good value here for her to get 20 in a game that I think is going to be less and less defense. They're going to give her opportunities and kind of feed her. If she gets going early, then I think she'll cruise to a 20 plus. So I like Nalisa Smith 20 plus 385, but I do still like Aaliyah Boston over 17 and a half in this one.
By the way, just to ask, I didn't really find the alt spreads. I found a couple, but they're not high enough for Seattle. However, I did find Seattle win margin. Seattle to win by 6+ points is plus 215. Is that too high
Yes.
for you or you're tempted?
No, let's do it. Let's do it. Where's that at?
I found it on Fox Bet.
Okay. Oh, I've never been up there before. I wonder if they got a deal, something I can get.
But it's the only book I know that actually has either alternative spreads or win margins in WNBA. So that's why I mentioned it, but I found plus 215.
I see Seattle Storm by 11 plus 450.
Yeah, I see the same line.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Well,
much you think they're going to bury him. I just wanted to mention six
I mean,
plus.
they buried. They if we just look at bad teams that they played, they buried the Mercury.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's a possibility, and that was in Phoenix. Oh my gosh,
I'm going to be
there's
so mad that I didn't bet the Mercury to miss the playoffs at plus 1,000. And we talked about it before
we talked
the
about it.
season
We
started.
said it. I
I
said
know.
I thought that 20. I'm cruising to this under 21 and a half. Like cruising at this
Yeah,
point. Maybe hopefully I'm not jinxing it and everybody just, Skylar Diggins Smith just pop up
I
at
think
the
it was really
facility.
plus 1,000 for them to miss the playoffs, though. I'm so salty that I didn't actually bet it.
Oh my gosh, they're so bad. And at this
Yep.
point, they're just keep digging their grave deeper. All right, we're not talking about them. We're talking about the Seattle Storm here. All right, let's go ahead and get into our lock and dog here for the slate. I will take for my lock that Washington Mystics team total under 78 and a half, minus 114. They haven't gotten over that number on the road yet this season. This Chicago team is going to be looking for revenge. It's not going to be a lot of ticky tack, extra fouls, putting Washington in a bonus because Washington was in a bonus early in the quarters in that game, and they were getting a lot of easy, free throws that were adding to their total. I think it comes a lot more difficult, a lot harder for them this game, and that team total comes down. So give me Washington team total under 78 and a half. For my dog, we have options. How spicy do we want to get here on this slate? We have that. What'd you say? Plus 250 for Seattle, 6 point?
215. Seattle 6
215.
plus.
I do. I like Chicago as well, but that's a puppy dog. Yeah, yeah, we gotta make these dogs something juicy. So give me that one. I'm gonna go put that bet in. I gotta make a Foxback account real quick, but I'm gonna put that one in. Give me Seattle to win by. Is it 6 plus or is it over
It's
6
minus 5.5.
minus 5.5? All right, Seattle minus 5.5 plus 215. I will take it. Let's go, Storm. All right, Scott, what are you doing here for this slate?
All right. So for my lock for the show, I'm going to go with the over in that same Fever and Storm game. I see it around 164.5. I still like the over. Neither team guards anybody, and I think you're going to see points in this game. Regardless of who you think is going to win, you're looking at both teams with team totals in the 80s, so you're expecting not much defense to be played. Indiana's last couple games, they gave up 100 to Atlanta, gave up 90 to Chicago, and Chicago really doesn't score that many points. They have some talent, but still 90 points to Chicago is kind of crazy. Gave up 85 to Phoenix, and you're looking at the Storm. They gave up 85 to Connecticut, 103 to Dallas, 96 to Vegas. The point is they don't guard anybody either. So give me the over at either 164, 164 and a half. I see a lot of points in this game, so my lock will be the over in that one. And I think for my dog here, I'm actually going to go to the same game. But I'm not sure if I want to take the Storm money line or if I want to go for some type of combo deal. I think I'm going to go for a combo deal. I'm going to go with Jewel Lloyd over 24.5 points, parlayed with the Storm to win, and that's plus 180. If Seattle's going to win, Lloyd's going to have a good game. And I do think, once again, with Lloyd dropping 30 plus in the last two games, she might be in line for maybe a little bit of regression, but not too much. Give
Uh-huh.
me Lloyd over 24.5 points and Seattle to win at plus 180.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, nice play there, Scott. All right. Anything else for the people before we get up out of here?
Not really. Looking forward to the three games. Should be fun. Kind of weird that all three games had road favorites based on what we've seen with the underdogs winning basically every game for the last couple weeks. So it should be pretty fun. But looking forward to the games tonight and the NBA draft.
Now we got to parlay all three. I was actually on all three dogs. Oh, see, now I got to parlay all three dogs because the last time I was on all three dogs, they all hit.
Yeah, we
So,
both were, and all
yeah.
three dogs won.
Oh, Scott, come on. Just change your. Well, no, because you're on the misses too. Never mind. All right. I'm just going to parlay the dogs myself. Everybody else, he's at Rush Hour Radio. I'm at really real __. You know where to find us. If you're not already, make sure you go like the video on YouTube. Let us get some YouTube hits. Make sure you leave a review wherever you get your podcast. Let us get some hits on that. I still haven't seen any reviews come in. Like, come on, guys. What do I got to do? Do I got to have a contest? Do I have to have a contest to get you guys to do reviews? It sounds like what I have to do. I might have to do that in the future. We'll see about doing that in the future. But beforehand, let me get some reviews. I appreciate it. Other than that, I do have nothing else to say, nothing else to do. No other way of ending the podcast. We're just going to end it like this. We are out of here.